So how are you beautiful people? You know I had to come back with another Bulls hot takes video. As always, we do this every week, so keep your takes coming all off season. Feel free to drop them in the comments in this video or any one of my videos for that matter, as I just might include it for next week's hot takes. But with that said, let's get into it. So what's going on, everyone? You're listening to Bulls Central here. Hope you're all doing well. Guys, real quick, I know a lot of you have been asking me, when am I going to get a Twitter account for the channel? I've had my own personal account for a number of years, obviously, and I've been meaning to get around to it, to create it for this channel specifically. But after I saw Stacey King himself give a shout out to the channel for the recent video that I uploaded a couple days ago talking about how the Bulls announcers are the best in the NBA, I figured, okay, it's time. So feel free to follow me at Bulls Central, Bulls.Central, I guess I should say, if you want. I'll also leave a link to that in the description. And of course, you can also follow me on Instagram, as I've been more active on there as well. And feel free to join the Discord. All of that information can be found in the description. But with that, let's start with our first hot take, which comes to us from Cameras Were On. Pepsi is better than Coke, and Patrick Williams will be the best defender on the Bulls next season. Disagree. I think Coke is better. I like both, but if someone puts a Pepsi and a Coke in front of me, I'm going to be taking the Coke. As far as Patrick Williams, though, I mean, it can be argued that he's already the Bulls' best defender. You know, Tice is obviously a great rim protector, but I would say Williams is a better overall defender, especially on the ball compared to someone like Tice. Then you have Thaddeus Young, Garrett Temple, also solid defenders, but I think overall Patrick Williams is a more versatile and all-around defender than those two. I mean, there's a reason Billy Donovan had Patrick Williams guard the best player on the opposing team on most nights, you know, guarding guys like Giannis, LeBron, and Kawhi Leonard, all in his first month in the league at the age of 19. That's because, in my opinion, he's the Bulls' best defender. I know some people were disappointed by Patrick Williams this season for his lack of aggression on offense, but you can't deny that he's a very, very capable defender, and the level of defense that he played in his first season was very promising. I think the offense will come. It'll just take a little bit longer than most Bulls fans would like to see, but he will get there. Next up, we've got Only Vibes. Keep dropping fire videos, Stacey and Adam, best duo commenters in the NBA. Thanks, my man. Much appreciated. And the hot take, the Bulls do a sign-in trade for Lowry and a future first for Lillard this offseason. Wow, I haven't seen a Lillard trade scenario to the Bulls before anyway. I mean, I love it, obviously, but there's no way that the Blazers do this. They're not going to give up their franchise player for Markkanen and a future first, especially when the Bulls don't really have, you know, their first-round picks to be able to offer them. You know, they're after trading them to Orlando. They do have their 2022 first. However, I do believe there is a rule against trading back-to-back first-round picks in consecutive years, although it's possible that might just be to a single team. I'll have to get back to you on that. But no, I think unless something catastrophic happens to the Blazers, where they fail in the playoffs again, which they might lose this first round to the Nuggets, and then the Blazers just decide that they're going to go in full rebuild mode, and after many failed attempts to try and build around Lillard, then I just don't see this happening at all. The other problem is the money doesn't work. You know, when you have Lillard on a max contract and Markkanen and a future first won't match salary-wise, you would likely have to throw in an additional piece, which, depending on what you're throwing in, you may have to start asking yourself, is it worth it? Because you'll likely need to include one of Lavine or Vucevic to not only make the money work, but also to actually be enough of an incentive for the Blazers to move on from Lillard. Next, we've got Mad Fam. Jaylen Brown and a first-round pick traded to Chicago for Kobe and Lowry this offseason. Well, yeah, you had me until you said first-round pick, because there is no way the Celtics would go for that. To be honest, even if you remove the first-round pick from the equation, Markkanen and Kobe is not going to be enough to do it for them in Boston as far as trading Jaylen Brown. I mean, you're talking about an all-star in Jaylen Brown who's only 24, averaged 24.7 points per game and 6 rebounds on great efficiency. They're not going to just let him go for Markkanen and Kobe. Although I do love this trade for the Bulls, obviously, but this just isn't going to do it for the Celtics. Now, granted, I think in another comment that you mentioned, this would essentially signal for the Celtics that they're committing to Tatum and building around him, and therefore would trade Brown. Well, I think that's a valid point. I mean, the Celtics underperformed this season, and it looks like they're going to get beaten down in the first round against the Nets. So changes are likely going to be happening this summer for the team. And it might be in their interest to commit to Tatum, since in my opinion, he is the better player with more upside potential. But if they're going to move on from Jaylen Brown, they're going to want to get max value for him, and getting Kobe and Lowry, well, also giving up a first-round pick is just not going to cut it, because so many other teams will have better offers that they know that they're going to be able to get if Jaylen Brown is on the trading block. The other thing I'm not entirely sure about is Jaylen Brown's fit for the Bulls. I mean, I don't get me wrong, he's a phenomenal player, and you're getting a third All-Star on this team, which is incredible, but I do wonder about his fit with Zach Lavine. They do have very similar styles of basketball. They really do play the same position, although I know that Jaylen Brown can play the 3 given his size. Obviously it's an upgrade for the Bulls, no question. Yeah, I would just worry about the overall chemistry of the team and the general fit between him and Zach. Next, we've got Belugrana. If Kobe Bryant, rest in peace, had gotten his trade to the Bulls, we'd have another championship. I like these kind of takes because, most hot takes are more forward-looking, whereas this one takes a more of a historical standpoint. It's hard to say because, on one hand, the Bulls would have given up a lot to get him, which granted, it's Kobe Bryant, and even at the time of the trade rumors, he was a little older, but of course he went on to play in his prime for many years after that, and even ended up going on to win 2 more championships. But the Bulls would have had to given up a lot for him, and I believe it would have included Luol Deng and Ben Gordon, and ultimately Deng was the hang-up for why the trade ended up not going through. Kobe really wanted the Bulls to keep Deng in order for him to accept that trade. But let's say that he does, and gets traded to the Bulls. He joins them in that 2007-2008 season. Now, the argument I usually hear people make is, well, the Bulls would have easily won multiple titles had they traded for Kobe, because they would have drafted Rose, and could you imagine an MVP Rose and the whole early 2010 Bulls team with Kobe Bryant? Well, the problem with that line of thinking is, first of all, Deng wouldn't have been on that team since he would have been included in that trade for Kobe, and because the Bulls would have Kobe in that season leading up to the 2008 draft, the Bulls likely would have been good enough to make the playoffs, meaning they wouldn't have been a lottery team, meaning they would not have been able to land Derrick Rose. So I don't think it's a surefire thing that the Bulls would have won another championship had Kobe been traded to them. I think it's definitely possible because it's Kobe Bryant. He's one of the greatest players to ever play the game, but you also have to factor in, would the right pieces have been put around him to actually make the Bulls a title team? Remember, this team still would have been run by Gar Pax, and we all know Kobe can't stand incompetence or mediocrity, and likely would have grown frustrated and demanded a trade from the team. But it's a fair take, and it's an interesting one for sure. Let's do one more. This one comes to us from Daryl Pride, and I knew someone was gonna likely throw out this hot take. The Bulls can snatch Kawhi Leonard if they get eliminated against the Mavs. So I actually do think the Clippers will lose to the Mavs, first of all. I personally think that series is over. With Dallas going back home for games 3 and 4, the Clippers team just does not have the fight in them that we all thought that they would. Now, this has obviously been a topic all season. Will Kawhi exercise his player option with the Clippers or opt out to become an unrestricted free agent? And I've been saying since the beginning of the season there is no way Kawhi opts out of his contract unless it's to re-sign to a larger extension with the Clippers, unless the Clippers absolutely bomb in the playoffs, which I really didn't think was going to be possible. I really thought the Clippers would make it to at least the conference finals this season. After what had happened in the bubble, blowing an embarrassing 3-1 lead to the Nuggets, I thought this was going to be their revenge year despite downgrading their coach. But to my surprise, although I guess I shouldn't say I should be all that surprised given the Clippers are cursed at this point in ever making it past the second round of the playoffs, but the Clippers are bombing in the playoffs yet again. Now this could come back to bite me, and the Clippers could turn it around in this series against the Mavs and go on and make a deep playoff run, but assuming that they fall to the Mavericks, I would say it is much more likely that Kawhi does in fact leave the Clippers. I still think the Clippers have the best shot at keeping him. If I were to give it a percentage of Kawhi leaving versus him staying, I would say it's maybe 60% chance that he stays, 40% chance that he leaves. Whereas before I would have said that it was a 95% chance that he stays. And that's because at the end of the day, the Clippers can offer him the most money, more than any other team, and we all know Kawhi loves LA. He's been wanting to come play for LA for a while now, but at the same time, this would be an embarrassing loss for Kawhi Leonard and the Clippers in general. And I wouldn't be surprised if Kawhi just says, I'm done, I'm going somewhere else where I can actually win. The problem though, which ties back to your original take, is it won't be the Bulls. As much as it pains me to say it, it just won't. First of all, the Bulls don't really have the cap space to sign him. They would have to move money around, waive some players, trade some players to make it work. Second, Kawhi is going, to want to go somewhere that is contending now, a team that is more of a sure thing. Because you could say, well, the Bulls have Lavine and they have Vucevic and even Patrick Williams as their young and up-and-coming player. Kawhi is that missing piece that could make them contenders, which you wouldn't be wrong in that regard. But for Kawhi, this team is a question mark based on how we performed after the deadline. Whether it's a fair assessment or not, it's a question mark. And Kawhi is not going to take that gamble, and I doubt that the Bulls are even on his radar at this point. It's not to say that the Bulls shouldn't try, they absolutely should. The front office should be doing everything in their power to get a meeting with him and pitch as best as they can their vision and future of this franchise. But with all the options available to Leonard, the Bulls are likely not going to be one of them. Not saying it's impossible, but very, very unlikely. I hope I'm wrong, though. Anyway, guys, that's going to wrap us up for Hot Takes this week. Appreciate all of you for leaving your takes. Keep them coming throughout the offseason. As I mentioned, I will continue this series every week throughout the offseason. Be sure to subscribe if you're a Bulls fan, as I do post daily Bulls content. Thanks again for tuning in, guys, and I will catch you in the next one.